say goodbye to spoiled milk, because today we're going to unlock the secrets to keeping your milk safe for your family for months and even years. I'm going to show you how to store milk long term so you'll have it whenever you need it. I don't know, have you ever been like me and you're making your recipe and you're measuring out your milk and it's like, oops, not enough? Well, you don't have to worry about it. Just follow the directions in this video and you'll always have milk when you need it. Milk is a staple in most households. You have a nice big cool drink with your lunch of milk. Maybe you put a little milk in your coffee. You're using it to make sauces. And of course, delicious desserts. You can use milk countless ways. And knowing how to store milk safely can save you time, money, and a lot of hassle. First, let's talk about the different types of fresh milk. You know, we have whole milk, we have 2%, and we have skim milk. Now, the difference in these three is the amount of fat. So whole milk has 3.25% fat, and it's that fat that gives milk drinkers that creamy consistency and taste that they love. It's perfect for baking, cooking, and of course, drinking. And it typically lasts, according to the manufacturer, once you open it, 5 to 7 days in your refrigerator. Next up, 2%. And yep, you guessed it. It has 2% fat. So it's kind of in between the whole milk and the skim milk. And it usually keeps, once opened, about 6 to 8 days in your refrigerator. And last we have skim milk, and it has only 0.5% of fat, which means it's lower in calories and great if you're trying to watch your fat intake. And it usually lasts about 7 to 10 days after opening. Let's talk about how you can extend your milk's life beyond the refrigerator. My number one go-to is freezing it. Now, my mom used to store leftover milk still in the original carton, but that's not what I'd advise. Put it in an airtight container, but be sure you leave enough room, 1 to 2 inches at the top, because that milk can expand and crack your container. Now, freezing can change the consistency of your milk, so a lot of people prefer frozen milk to be used for baking as opposed to drinking. I like to freeze milk in measured portions. I really like this super cubes. It's made for freezing soup or broth, but the neat thing about it, well, number one, it has a cover. It has 1/2 cup and 1 cup measurements. So you can easily decide if you want a 1/2 cup or a cup. And then I love how easy, because it is silicone, you just push something out. If you're interested, got the Amazon link down below. I also use these silicone muffin cups. They each hold a 1/2 cup. And if you'd like smaller quantities of frozen milk, use your ice cube trays. 2 frozen ice cubes of milk is equal to 1/4 cup. And they're great for using to make smoothies. Just pour in what you want, be it 1/2 cup, or if you want 1 cup. Then put on your cover, and then place it in your freezer. So you just pop off your cover, and I found just running a butter knife around the edges makes it a little bit easier to pop it out. Then you just have to squeeze it, and it pops right out. A nice little milk brick. Now I'm just going to bag it and vacuum seal it, and then label it, and then stick it back in the freezer. To me, having milk in your freezer ready for any recipe you have is just so convenient. Now, unless you're making smoothies, you have to thaw that milk before you can use it. Now, a big no-no is just putting your bag of milk out on your kitchen counter and letting it thaw. Not the best way to do it. Because according to the USDA, bacteria can thrive in 40 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit, which can be your kitchen counter, and then unsafe to ingest. Instead, you might want to thaw it overnight in your refrigerator, or get a bowl of cold water, stick the bag in it, and put it in your refrigerator, and it will probably take maybe an hour to thaw, and after 30 minutes you can replace it with more cold water. Or if you need it quick, you can always use your microwave. Just transfer that frozen milk to a safe microwave container and use 15-second bursts until it thaws. But then use it immediately in your recipe. Skim milk probably freezes faster than whole milk because it doesn't have a lot of fat, and when you're thawing it, it doesn't separate as much. But if your thawed milk kind of tastes grainy, then pour it back and forth or shake it in a container. But what I like to do is use my immersion blender. It makes it nice and smooth. Now, according to the experts, milk will keep in the freezer for 3 months and maintain quality. I have to admit, I have had it in the freezer and used it after 6 months, and I thought it was still fine in a recipe. So let's recap according to the experts. Whole milk lasts about 5 to 7 days in the refrigerator. 2% milk, about 6 to 8 days in the refrigerator. And skim milk, the longest after opening, 7 to 10 days. And that is what the experts say, but to be honest, I've had a longer lasting after opening in the refrigerator. Generally, we only use whole milk. And I have found that it lasts opened in the refrigerator until is it the best buy date, best use date, not sure, and even a bit beyond. But when it gets close to that date or beyond, I always do the sniff test, right? Is it starting to smell sour? If so, I left it in the refrigerator too long. Now, if you're lucky enough to have a freeze dryer, you can make powdered milk at home yourself. But just remember to be careful with handling the milk beforehand and after, because freeze drying does not kill any bacteria. Once you reconstitute that milk, the bacteria will still be there. The great thing about freeze drying is you have powder, it takes up little space and it's lightweight. A quart of freeze-dried milk is equal to a gallon of reconstituted milk. And it's really simple to reconstitute. You just need 1 part water, 1 part of your freeze-dried milk, and mix it. And proponents of freeze-dried milk say it tastes the same as fresh. I can't say if that's true or not because I have never had freeze-dried milk. I just cannot justify the price of a freeze dryer for my family. But if you're lucky enough to have one, you already have a great storage mechanism. So maybe you think, hey, I don't have a freeze dryer, but I have a dehydrator. Well, so do I. But I will not dehydrate milk. The USDA says not a good idea because commercial operations have a much higher temperature that they can get the milk to destroy any bad bacteria before they make it into powdered form. And we can't do that with our home dehydrator. The National Center for Home Preservation says, do not dehydrate any dairy product. Okay, so then you think, well, I'm a home canner. Can I can milk? Well, yes, you can, but the question is, should you? Again, the National Center for Home Preservation says don't can, be that water bath can or pressure can, any dairy product. I mean, is it worth the risk when there are other mechanisms you can use for long-term storage? So I advise sticking with a refrigerator or freezer, unless you're lucky enough to have that freeze dryer, for storing your fresh milk. But there are other shelf-stable milks out there. So let's discuss them. Wait, before we discuss those alternatives, let me introduce myself. I am Prepper Potpourri. I have had a channel on YouTube for over a decade, helping people navigate life's challenges by providing practical advice and tips to prepare for the everyday and the catastrophic emergencies. So if you'd like more practical emergency preparedness advice, hit that subscribe button and the like button. I really appreciate it. I think most of us have evaporated milk on our kitchen pantry shelves. And according to the manufacturer, it'll keep from 18 months to 2 years. Fantastic. And maybe even beyond that, but it depends on the temperature of your storage room. Cooler is better. And then we have commercially produced powdered milk. This is whole powdered milk, and this is non-fat instant milk. Both great alternatives for your shelves because powdered milk can stay shelf stable for 1 to 10 years or even beyond, depending on the type of powdered milk you are using. My favorite is the whole milk powdered milk. But it's not going to last as long on the shelves because, again, it has fat content. So according to the manufacturer, only about a year. I have found it lasts longer. And if you want to increase its life, you can always put it in a freezer-safe container that's airtight and put it in your freezer. And it will last a long, long time. This is your Carnation instant milk, and you can get it in pouches too. It lasts, according to the manufacturer, about 1 year. But again, there are ways to extend its shelf life. Let me show you. If it is stored like this on your pantry shelf, if you can keep it in an area that's only about 50 degrees, it will store much longer. A study from Utah State University found that if you can keep your powdered milk in an area at optimum 50 degrees, the taste will be maintained for 4 years or longer. However, if it is an area that has 90 degrees or higher temperatures, the taste will go bad after only 6 months. You know, for longer shelf life, I recommend storing in a Mylar bag. And I got links below if you're interested in purchasing some Mylar bags. These are bags that I think are high quality. But again, there are ways to extend its shelf life. Let me show you. If you're storing a small amount, I like these Wallaby MRE pouches. They're really nice and thick. They look like this. And we'll just pour milk in it. And it nicely keeps 2 cups of milk. And before you seal it, put in your oxygen absorber. And they do self-seal, but I also seal them with my iron. Or if you have a hair straightener, that works out fabulous. Be sure to label it, and now it's ready for your shelves. In this case, I have 2 cups in here, so it would reconstitute 8 cups of milk. So store it in the size that you'd be using it. Don't put everything in a 5 or 6 gallon pail. Put it in your pantry in a cooler area and you are good to go. And you can keep that milk for 10 years or longer. Now, if you end up putting your milk in a clear container, let's say a canning jar, you want to keep it sealed and in a dark place because light will cause food to age quicker. Oh yeah, remember I told you about that you could freeze your powdered milk? Well, the neat thing about that is you don't have to wait for it to thaw, right? You can use it right straight from the freezer and reconstitute it and have milk to use in your recipe or for drinking. And talking about reconstituting, there actually are 2 types of milk powder. What I've showed you here is the instant, but there's also the non-instant. And the difference is the instant has kind of air in between the particles and it ends up reconstituting much faster. To reconstitute, you just need 4 tablespoons in 1 cup water. And it really mixes up pretty fast with the instant. So, no residual on the bottom, all mixed up and ready to drink. Whereas the non-instant doesn't. It can take longer. In fact, some people make it and put it overnight in the refrigerator. But if you're worried about the taste of your instant or your non-instant powdered milk, some people add a little bit of vanilla to it, and they also say it's much, much better when chilled. If you're having problems mixing up your powdered milk, again, an immersion blender is very, very handy. So even though in this video I've talked about keeping milk for 10 years or longer, it's not what I recommend. I recommend rotate, rotate, rotate. My aim is to have supplies for 3 years and to use and rotate continuously. That way I always have the freshest supplies and don't have to worry about special packaging to keep something for 10 years or more on my pantry shelves. I really believe practice rotation, not what I call the store and forget method. It's best for being prepared. Well, there you have it. With these tips, you can maximize the shelf life of your stored milk, ensuring you always have milk on hand, no matter what the emergency is. And if you're interested in another household tip, watch this to find out how to extend the life of your baking supplies.